Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal Myers Barber, and I have a special guest today with me. Her name is Elana Freeland, and I contacted her. We met a year ago in Los Angeles, and I contacted her and asked her to be my special guest on the show. And I told her since we met last year in Palos Verdes, here in Orange County, where I live, the whole beast system appears to have been installed. And so I emailed her and I told her that every street now has those lights. They're grouped with big harp, that's HAARP, looking, ones. And I take pictures of all this. And I said they're also digging up and messing with the water system all over here in LA. Street corners have surveillance cameras. Parking lots are, coming up with police poles, surveillance devices, and buildings are now they're installing these satellite tower looking poles everywhere. So I wanted her to comment on this. Now, she also has written 3 books, and I have her latest, which is it's almost 700 pages, and it's how the environment has been weaponized by chemicals, electromagnetism, and nanotechnology for synthetic biology. With that, I want to introduce you to my guest right now. So thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Hi, Crystal. Thank you so much for that nice introduction.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'm so happy that we finally could get our computers working. I feel like the deep state is always trying to keep these interviews down. But I think you just have so much amazing insight and knowledge. And I would just love it if you could explain just really some of your things that you've written in your book.
Geoengineered Transhumanism is my third book, as you said, and it's been quite a journey all these years. I've been in this writing books on this topic for since 2012. And I've learned a lot by writing the books because this is a highly classified project that's going on. It's in the newspapers, you'll now and then see the words geoengineered or geoengineering, but it'll be in the context of solar radiation management because of climate change and global warming. And it'll talk about how they're not sure they're going to have to do it, and they think they're going to have to do it. And there's going to be some health risks, but they can't help it because the global warming is so bad, or whatever the story is of the day. And this climate change thing is a complete cover story for a very military, industrial, intelligence complex operation. And the idea of using aerosols, chemicals, heavy metals on a nano scale, a nano being 1/1000th of a meter. This is not a new idea, but it's finally working because when they started with HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, way back in the 90s, they built this huge instrument up in Gakona, Alaska, which was basically just a bunch of antennas. And they were able to use a certain kind of antenna by which they could gather all of them together when they lit them up, and they'd gather all those beams into one gigantic, powerful beam. And that type of antenna is called phased array. And they were able to direct that beam up to the ionosphere, which begins about, I want to say 40 miles up and keeps going up all the way to the magnetosphere, which is what our planet is connected to through the geomagnetic grid that is under our feet. So they were able to control the ionosphere, and from that, they were then able to control the jet stream. So what I'm basically telling you is that the first operation of geoengineering, there are 7 major operations going on. The first operation is weather control, and that includes climate control. Climate is long-term weather, and weather is short-term climate. So they can control the ionosphere, and now they control the jet stream. So that means that they can move weather systems anywhere they please with the jet stream. So this constant disinformation on the 6 o'clock news or in the New York Times and Washington Post, all of this is basically a lie. And what is most important is, what are they really up to? Because the weather is completely controlled. They have achieved that. And the only way they can do that is by those chemical trails flying. And you've seen them for years, and you've been told that they're just contrails, they're just condensation trails, water vapor, ice, that's it. Not true. These are chemical trails with a very specific chemical signature. And what they're doing is laying lots and lots of what the military calls chaff. It's a very tiny little pieces of conductive metal, and laying it in the atmosphere along with other things. And then down on the earth, they've got the lasers, they've got microwave radar systems. Everything can electromagnetically control those conductive heavy metals up there in the sky that are so tiny you can't see them, but you see when people tell me, and I have people who write me and say, "Oh, we had a clear day today," and I always say, show me a photo of the sky. And so they show me a photo, and it's just baby blue, and then along the horizon, you'll see it's very murky. It's like a powder blue, a powder white, and we're so used to it now, and they've got new generations coming up who don't know any different, don't remember skies that were deep blue. I mean, deep blue.
Right.
So this program, they have to drop those metals because they need, for control over the atmosphere, for weather, and then I'll name the other 6 operations. They've got to be able to move electromagnetic waves, millions and billions of them, through the atmosphere. And to do that, you can't have clear air. You've got to have chaff. You've got to have what they call doping, D-O-P-I-N-G. And what that means is you put the doping elements into the mix, and then you can move various waves, ultra low frequency, high frequency, the full gamut. And that's what we have now. And the problem that I'm most concerned about, we always have military operations going on, even in civilian life, even though, they lie about that as well. But what is most concerning is that this nanotechnology is basically what we're breathing from the heavy metals, the conductive metals, that would be aluminum, barium, strontium, chromium, lithium, all manner of metals, and carefully chosen, by the way, not just chaff or whatever they're trying to get rid of. No, it's very carefully chosen. And then the chemicals that accompany them, that all of this is what we're breathing. We're breathing all of it in. And the nanoscale stuff, which is almost all of it, because you don't notice anything, you're just breathing the air that the planet has on it. It's all so tiny that when it goes into the lungs, it won't necessarily cause any lung ailments right away, but it'll go right through the lungs, into the tissues, into the bloodstream, and then eventually it'll end up at the doorway to the blood-brain barrier. And now it can enter there as well because it is so tiny. It's submicron is another term you'll see. And that means it's nanoscale. So a nano is 1/1000th of a meter, and it moves in phalanxes. It moves in swarms, and that's the other problem with this, is that a whole lot of it's coming down, and that includes nanosensors. That includes nanorobots, which are called nanobots, and nanotechnology. I mean, all the way to tiny, tiny, tiny computers, tiny little bits of software that go into that hardware. And we're, again, breathing it all. And what I finally realized by the third book with Geoengineered Transhumanism is, yeah, this is all about a transhuman environment. This is all about making the Earth environment so unfriendly to the human 1.0, the natural, divine, God given human that we are all accustomed to thinking we all are, uh, making it so uncomfortable for us that we turn to the big pharma cartels, we turn to the big medicine cartels. We don't at all think that we can be healthy on our own. Our health has never been as bad as it is today, despite the fact that people are living long lives. Many are into their 90s, and yet the quality of life is not good because of what we're breathing. So I wrote this third book and went deep into the synthetic biology that it looked to me like they had prepared the planet for. And really, it all began way back with Clifford Carnicom, the independent scientist I worked with, when I wrote the first book, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. When we worked together and looked through microscopes at blood, at saliva, and figured out that there was this creature in it called Morgellons. And it's a microbe, but not a natural microbe. It's been bioengineered. And that Morgellons, a lot of people at the time I was meeting Clifford and beginning to work with him, a lot of the people who had sores on their skin and things were coming out of the sores, including seemingly color-coded wires, as well as insect-like looking things and sparkly things. All of this was in the body, and it was from this fiber, this filament that Clifford was able to collect after the jets would fly. He'd collect the condensation and find these creatures that when he was finally chemically able to break into the filament, which is a polymer sheath, inside were actual organs and entities that he was able to then begin to test and see what was up. And that was a long time ago. That was like in the late 90s, early 2000s. But believe it or not, that research that we were the guinea pigs for, because they were dropping that from the sky, from the stratosphere, and that was on purpose. And we were breathing it all in, and it was residing inside our bodies. And that's everyone. That's not just the people with the sores on their skin. That's all of us. We were all breathing it in. That is connected to what is going on today with the inoculations in the last 3 years. The inoculation with the serums from these major big pharma cartel members, and also many people are now testing not just the serum, but testing the blood of the persons who have been jabbed in order to see what is in the blood as well. And from the Morgellons of yesteryear, that was an assault on the blood. And now we have this, which is more sophisticated, but still the same lineage as what Clifford Carnicom was studying 2 decades ago. So that's the story of the biological connection to the chemical trails and HARP, all the ionospheric heaters. The other things that I want you to know, those are 2 operations. the weather engineering, I've already talked about
Yeah.
that. Then there's the chemical and electromagnetic operations that are going on. And that has to do with, yes, electrical weather events that are completely man-made, volcanic eruptions, completely man-made, earthquakes, completely man-made, all serving to keep the atmosphere charged. That's one of the main things that's going on. They are experimenting with plasma and antimatter, and even farming antimatter up in our atmosphere. They're creating Birkeland currents, Alvin Whistler waves, rotating electrical fields. I mean, that's all electromagnetic and chemical. That's all being done. But again, they need the chemicals and electromagnetics for that, but it's also about getting us to breathe all these things in. Okay, third operation, planetary geophysical. They're engineering droughts, fires, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, storms, polar vortices, solar cycles, and for the sake of environmental modification, as well as making money for the disaster capitalists. It's hard to believe that they don't care about the cost of human life, but I think we're getting the picture now that so
Mhm.
many people are dying.
Mhm.
Then the fourth operation is directed energy weapons. And this used to be a pretty simple thing to write about. I wrote an article for Nexus Magazine years ago, but now they can use just about anything in the Internet of Things or the Internet of Nano Things or the Internet of Bodies in order to turn them into directed energy
Like
weapons.
my phone.
Your
My
phone, absolutely. The towers outside, the radiation that comes from the cell towers and from the fiber optics that are under the cell towers. All of this can be utilized as a weapon system. In fact, I would go so far as to say it is all a weapon system, including the iPhones. I don't own one, as many people know, never owned one, never want to. It's a weapon system created by the military, and I don't own a television, never have. It's a weapon system. So, to begin to look at your electromagnetic toys and, even electric cars, etc., with an eye to how it can be used for what the military calls dual use is very important. The dual use is military and civilian. So they own all the frequencies for all the types of devices that we have grown accustomed to in our daily lives, plus their own devices and their directed energy weapons, which are specifically military, all the way from lasers and masers. And a maser is simply a laser that uses microwaves, all the way to the things we always think of, the Star Wars type stuff, the laser, the beam weapons, the plasma beam weapons, and all that. But the one that I think we're most concerned about as civilians are the ones that can be used in the environment in which we live or work, or in the smart cities. To me, the smart city is really just an armed city. And really, to live in a smart city is taking your life into your own hands. So now the fifth operation, surveillance and neural manipulation. And by neural manipulation, I of course mean mind control. So this can happens from satellite. We have I don't know how many satellites are up there, but it's in the hundred thousands.
Yeah.
And the artificial intelligence is on board there. If they can determine your what they call evoked potential, your particular frequency. Every human being has a unique frequency, which gives you a clue as to what we are. We're not just cattle. We're very unique beings. And if they get that frequency of the evoked potential, then They can pretty much hit your brain anywhere you are, and they can track you and trace you as well. So that's a done deal. I'm not talking about the future here. I'm talking about right now.
I just want to say, on the fifth one, I know that they do know my thoughts. I've seen this happen. And
Yeah,
you remember, and you said this in the different interview about Klaus Schwab's right hand man, Noah. I can't think of his last name. Harari.
Harari,
Yeah,
Harari, yeah, poster boy for Satanism.
yeah, right. He says humans are hackable, and I didn't get it till I watched the last interview. He actually means that they can hack into our mind system, right?
That's right. That's right. They hack into our brain. And then he says something else that's even more scary. At least it is to me. He says that surveillance now will take place under the skin. And what he's referring to are the nanobots and the nanosensors that we've breathed in from the aerosol program up in the sky, that they will be able to control those nanobots through the 5G, 6G systems that they now have in place, and they can just control our nanobots, no problem. So yes, we are hackable. We are being hacked. In fact, I would say to your listeners, if ever you have a thought that is so unlike you,
Mm.
uh, you must train yourself to think that it could be that you're in some sort of electromagnetic field in which there's a transmission going on, possibly even to you, but possibly to someone else, somewhere else who's being targeted near you, and you're picking up on that transmission.
Wow, that is
So that,
mind blowing. I think they could use this to do the shootings. I'm just going to add this. This is my
oh yeah, yeah.
process that's happening. You think, how can these kids go into these high schools? And it's just, I
No,
just,
that's definitely Manchurian candidate stuff, and that came out with MK Ultra many years ago. But now they can do it. They don't need to do it. Train the kid from childhood on. They can actually take over a mind or a brain uh, uh, at a distance. So, what do you do about that? Well, I tell you what would work is to limit exposure to electromagnetic um, video games, movies, TV. I mean, the TV set alone is wired in such a way that it's a weapon system. It's constantly listening to you in your home. Its video capacity is constantly on to view what is going on. So, let's get real here about the technology that we think is so great, so convenient, so comforting, so entertaining, that really we have been taken advantage of by the military industrial intelligence complex for the sake of control. Let's just get that straight, okay? I'm not here to make everybody feel bad. I'm here to relay the best of what I've been able to find out. We are at war for the sake of the future of humanity, period. That's what's going on. Okay, so the sixth operation of geoengineering, the real geoengineering, is digital biology, nanotechnology, and all in service to a transhuman world. Okay, so let me unlock that a little bit. The digital biology, what that means is we are not we are not in the era of the molecular biology anymore. Now, I studied biology in college. I loved biology. But that was molecular biology. So it was organic matter. You're looking at cells, you're looking at molecules. Now it's moved to digital biology. And what that means is they have the frequency of that particular disease or that particular condition or those particular symptoms that go with the condition. They have the frequency, and they can use the electromagnetic system that is now wireless and everywhere on Earth to transmit that frequency to human beings or animals and make them sick make them have the disease of the frequency that they are transmitting. Do you see what I mean? It doesn't mean anymore that you have to be careful of germs and breathing and moisture. Different moistures that humans produce. No, they can use, not us. They can use these transmissions to make us have the symptoms that lead us to believe we're sick. I've had this happen, and you were there to see it, right, Crystal?
Yeah, I was,
You were
yes.
there to see it on my book tour when I was definitely under attack in the sense that I was being controlled by an electromagnetic leash coming through the 5G, 6G system. And notice I always say 5G, 6G.
Oh,
5G and 6G are a dynamic duo. They need both for this technology of running human beings digitally. So you have the 5G, which is millimeter waves, and you have the 6G, which is terahertz waves. So this is what they need to control what I call the tiny world, the sub-micron nano world. And so I was made to have symptoms whereby I was sick, but I inside my body was fine. I felt fine, but
oh,
my body was going through these symptoms that I simply could not control, all the way from uh, incredible fatigue and then projectile vomiting, everything I ate. So I couldn't eat for 6 or 7 days,
wow.
which again was making me tired. And I was still able to force myself to fulfill my obligations to all the wonderful people who had turned out to meet me and hear me talk. But I was definitely not my prime energy self. And I had thought that my immune system, because I have a great immune system, I've been a health nut since the 60s, and I haven't been to a doctor, a Western doctor, since I was 13 years old. I'm 75 now. And I was able, I had great confidence in my immune system for this book tour, but I had not reckoned on how digital biology
Yeah.
moves through frequencies and electromagnetics and therefore bypasses the immune system, which has for thousands and thousands and thousands of years concentrated on defending us from molecules of various agents that are inimical to our biology. So I had not taken that into account. But according to the people who targeted me, and it was targeting,
Yeah.
they gave me a dose of my own medicine, you might say, to understand that this was a completely different program. It had nothing to do with getting sick. So anyway, I understand now how that digital biology works. So keep that in mind. This is like flipping yourself over 180 degrees from what you've been conditioned to believe in with the germ theory, the idea that a virus is causing everything, that bacteria cause everything. Not so at all, unless that virus has been gain of function. And you're probably familiar with that term.
Yeah.
That means that it's been in a lab, it has been changed from an organic material into something that is forcing it to become synthetic material, synthetic biology. So in that case, then a virus can be used for that. But we are not, there is no contagion that's going on the level of the old biology, the molecular biology.
Okay, is
Okay.
it because they were pretty much able to use these towers that are now up, the satellites, and just the new systems that I call the beast type systems that are now installed. That is playing into what you described as your symptoms. And I actually had symptoms too.
Absolutely so, but also all the cell phones of all the people in the
Okay.
audiences that I was facing. I was, I mean, I was immersed in 5G, 6G. So
Yes.
I was an easy target because where I live here in my little environment, my little apartment environment, I have very carefully made sure that I understand how anything electromagnetic that I have works.
Okay.
And so I have no television, never have owned one, never will. It's a weapon system. I
Right.
have no cell phone, no iPhone, never will. I have a landline, which collects my messages. I have a computer, and I have a printer.
Mm.
And then I have electric lights from the 60 hertz in the walls. In my bedroom where I sleep, there is nothing electromagnetic. And I sleep on a bed with no metal because the metal operates as an antenna system. Let me tell you, that is
You're
something you need to take care of right away. I have a futon on some wooden slats, is what I have. So I have created an environment which is very nurturing to the degree I can. Not to say that waves aren't coming through my apartment, but what I have is devices in my. I've bought them from a company called, let me think, I'll think of it in a minute. Uh,
mission
these
focused.
devices that go into the light sockets that
Mm.
broadcast friendly frequencies for the human body in order to counter the many, many waves that are moving through my apartment from 5G systems of other people or whatever's going on around me. So
Mm.
that's how I've been able to do that. I think it's called Blue Shield,
Okay.
BLUSHIELD. They're
Perfect.
expensive, but they have sales all the time for devices. So, in other words, what I'm saying is we need to start thinking electromagnetically, and it's not a matter of like I've heard some people say to me, well, I don't really like science that much. Well, you know what? Do I care? I don't care if you like it or not. You're going to either survive or fall. And if you fall, you're going to fall straight into the arms of the medical and big pharma cartels. And God help you if you do that. And the smart hospitals. You enter a smart hospital, you know what you're entering? You're entering a massive chamber of 5G and 6G. You understand that? You're being cooked the
Mm.
whole time you're in those environments. So, let's wake up and in America we tend to nurture, nurture is not the right word. We coddle ourselves with entertainment and comfort and convenience, and therefore we're not ready for this. We weren't ready for what hit us 3 years ago. And
No.
we're not ready for what's coming next, which I have no idea what it is, but I know we're not out of the woods yet. All right, then, okay, I mentioned the digital biology, so we went through that. I'm still on the sixth operation. The nanotechnology, I've already talked about that it's being dumped from the stratosphere by jets, rockets, and drones. And it's purposeful for military operations, but it is not harmless for us. It is harmful for us. And part of the program of what's being dumped is coming through the secret space program. And I haven't mentioned that before, but I mention it all the time in interviews. Yes, there is a secret space program. Catherine Austin Fitts, the investment analyst, has talked about it, and about how it may even be that the I don't know how many trillions of dollars now are missing from the American budget, but it must be close to $100 trillion now. That much of it goes into the secret space program, because a lot of what's happening in our atmosphere through geoengineering is its intent, in part at least, is to prepare for going into space. For example, the transhuman model, which is my next topic here, the transhuman model of the human being. Can you imagine that you could make it so that if you put enough um, brain computer interfaces into the human body, a BCI it's called, brain computer interfaces that whereby we can be plugged into and connected to and controlled by AI systems that are operating through 5G and 6G and eventually 7G systems. Uh, we will need a different body than this molecular natural body. We're going to need a body that has maybe veins, maybe nerves that are constructed of metals, such as graphene oxide, which they are finding in the vials of the serums and in people's blood after they are inoculated. We all remember when we saw these people standing and laughing about putting on the arm that was inoculated how they could hang spoons and other metallic items from their arm. So there is the the long-term objective of transhumanism, I believe, is to create a human model. It won't be a human being anymore. It'll simply be a type of human looking to some degree. And it will be able to go beyond the Van Allen belts, which are intense radiation surrounding our entire planet. We have never been able to go beyond the Van Allen belt. So does that mean we never went to the moon? Yes, that's exactly what it means. We have never gone to the moon as far as human beings or astronauts. Maybe machines have been sent. Perhaps, perhaps there's a way to do that where it doesn't matter. But we would require lead-lined suits, and that would be incredibly heavy. And I don't think that. I think they've already considered that and tossed it out. So now the idea is to change the human being, at least to some degree, like to have at least one human, transhuman race. And then the other humans who may remain human in most ways, we've all breathed in the nanotechnology and everything that the inoculated people have.
Right.
And therefore, we can be controlled via 5G and 6G systems by artificial intelligence. And that's really what is being found in the serums now, is this two-pronged approach to controlling the human being. The one approach is the mRNA way with the spike proteins that you keep hearing about. And yet there have been doctors and researchers who have, through their microscope work, electronic microscopes, looked into the serums and not seen any mRNAs or spike protein producing proteins. So what does that mean? Well, now we look at the other thing that's being found in the serums and in the blood after inoculation, and we find that these are all computer parts. There's tiny routers, tiny circuit boards, all the different things, just as you would for a real computer in the world, are now on a very tiny scale and being inoculated into people's bodies, along with, I assume, the software by which they can then be controlled by remote systems that are 5G and 6G. So I think that's where we're at. And why they spent so much time, that would be 2.5 decades now, on the geoengineering. We've been geoengineered now for 2.5 decades, while they're all claiming that, gee whiz, we may have to do it because of climate change, global warming, whatever. No, that's all lies. And it's a lie that carbons are the problem. Right. Lie. And we can put it all together, which I have attempted to do in these books, so that we understand they created an environment. This is what's called epigenetics. They use the environment to make it so that it's so unfriendly to a healthy human being that we all sort of already become, through poor health and all sorts of things that we have all this metal lodged in us. Most people don't even know that. So they're not getting heavy metal detox, which they should be doing as a maintenance operation. Uh, they become so ill, and that their humanity uh, begins to dwindle, and they then turn to the medical industry and the big pharma industry, which has the means by which to weaken us further. And do all the hospital workers know that that's what's going on? Of course not. Only the ones at the top know that the assault is endless, endless. And so I just want to wake people up to our condition so that we begin to take care of our health ourselves. So let me just do the last seventh operation, which for most people is the most fun. And that's the cloaking and obscuration and detection of exotic propulsion craft in the cloud forms above and plasma life forms. Okay, let me unwrap that. Now, these clouds up here that we call clouds, these are not the clouds of my childhood 50 years ago. These are plasma clouds. They're created by chemicals and electromagnetism. They can be used in a variety of ways. You can make them look like cumulus clouds. You can make them look like cirrus cloud cover. All of it, all of it, all of it. There are no natural clouds now, to my knowledge. None, zero. So let's get over it. They're creating an artificial world for artificial human beings, and that's I know it's crazy sounding, isn't it? I must be crazy, but these to obscure these exotic propulsion craft, and most of them are ours. Probably not all of them. Most are human made. We brought the Nazis over at the end of World War II under Operation Paperclip, and they brought their mind control notes from all the concentration camp horrors, and that became MK Ultra, run by the CIA. And they also brought over all the work they'd done on exotic propulsion craft, on UFOs, or as they're called now, US. They have another UA something. So that's these craft often hide in the cloud cover. In fact, they can create their own plasma cloud cover. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can see these things. There are people who are watching very closely, and probably there are certain geographic areas where this is going on more than other places. That would make sense to me, because these vessels, these propulsion craft, are probably somewhat dependent on the geomagnetics of the Earth in one place or another. Then I mentioned plasma life forms. So what's that about? Well, that goes back to the scientist Wilhelm Reich, who used infrared film to take photographs in the desert of creatures that the infrared availed him of seeing in our atmosphere. Now, these are not new. These probably have been here, these creatures, they don't have physical bodies, they have plasma bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably have been here thousands and thousands and thousands of years, possibly millions of years, even before the human being ever arrived here or arose here, however you want to look at it. Mm-hmm. But these entities are benign for the most part. At least that's how Wilhelm Reich found them. And then Trevor Constable was another man. He was an engineer, and he too took infrared film of these creatures and published a lot of them. Both were aware that the radiation being used in the 1950s, 1960s, etc., was really just destroying us, producing what they called the emotional plague. So that's a very interesting chapter of American history that you can delve into. So there are the 7 operations. Those are all due to Clifford Carnicom, by the way. I've tweaked them, but he's the one who came up with them originally to show that geoengineering is much more than the press is telling us it is about.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned CERN before, and Satan is using, those systems to open up portals, and at least that's what I'm saying. And
Mm-hmm.
um, just using these situations, and it's just I don't have a lot of information on it, and I think so many people don't. They've heard of CERN, they've heard of these different operations, but what you're giving us today really is helpful. It's so helpful, and I just want to also add that I didn't get jabbed, but I had metals sticking to my body, and I did a video of it, so I'll have to post that later.
Well, and again, it's not just the jab, but it's the breathing in of all these heavy metals.
Mm.
Also, we have to take that into account. I know that the idea of shedding bothers people. The shedding of the inoculated
Mm.
and the non-inoculated feeling that they're catching something from this shedding. I tend to think the shedding is more about the fact that these people who have received the jabs are now on a very similar electromagnetic leash to the one I described I was on during my book tour.
Yeah.
And so what that means is they're being tracked and traced according to the heavy metals in their bodies and from the jab and from what they've already breathed in, as we all have breathed in over the decades, these nano heavy metals. And they are being logged. Their biometrics are being collected by the nanosensors in them, which also are connected to the the nano metals as energy systems for the nanosensors that are collecting data for the supercomputers that the transmissions are going to in order to read their biometrics and keep track of the experiment that they are for these vast big pharma corporations. So you come into a place where there are heavily inoculated people who are on these electromagnetic leashes, and you may get into the transmission field of those people, and that their electromagnetic field around their body is in a 90-degree pattern. And so you come in touch with that field, then you may pick up transmissions, and they may be receiving transmissions from some guy on a laptop who works for the military industrial intelligence complex, who is logging into this person in order to send them symptoms or whatever, and you pick up some of that. That's how I see the shedding happening. It's electromagnetic.
And I will tell you, when all this was going on and they were trying to get us to take the jab, Gavin Newsom, which is the governor of California, did tell everybody about the app, and they had everybody download this app. And so they knew who was getting it and who wasn't. And so that is 100% possible that they are, doing everything you just laid out.
Right. That's the Bluetooth app.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Bluetooth. And it has been found, which is pretty spooky, but on the other hand, makes sense, that even people who have died post inoculation in the cemeteries where their bodies are buried, the Bluetooth transmission pulse is still operating. In the cemeteries where their bodies are buried, the Bluetooth transmission pulse is still operating.
And today is April the 4th, 2023. And I do apologize for the abruptness ending to the video with Elana as we were discussing so much, but we have been under attack this entire broadcast, and I'm so thankful that we could get through this far. So anyway, I just want to end with telling you that you can purchase all three of her books on a website other than Amazon, which you can find them on Amazon. But this book is available in a color edition, and you can find it on RudolphSteinerBookstore.com. That's Rudolph, RudolphSteiner bookstore.com. And she also wrote Under an Ionized Sky, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. And that's going to be a wrap for today. You can find me on Telegram under Crystal Myers Barber, and also Facebook. I do post to Rumble under Promo Girl 07, Brighteon, and also Odyssey, or some other places you may find this interview, and so many more interviews coming soon. So thanks for tuning in. God bless, and please make sure to share this and follow me so you'll see other upcoming interviews with amazing people such as Elana.